it's like they're trying to come up with a way to cave without looking like they're caving. Really good news. Welcome to Rising Anxieties. Happy New Year. It's another year of rising anxieties. They just keep rising. This is, of course, the program where we unpack what's worrying the animal abuse industry, or the biggest of the animal abuse industries. And, what's worrying me, which is a lot. We don't go through that entire list. And maybe some of the things that are worrying you. Or a better way to think of it, perhaps, is the things that should be worrying you, because that is my lot in life, to tell people all the stuff that they're supposed to be worrying about. Don't forget that we're on YouTube, but we're also a podcast. So however you listen, we're thrilled. Please subscribe and also hit like if you like. Even if you don't like, do it anyway. And all right, today our first story is by one of my favorite commentators on the industry. And so this is from Sentient Media and by the always insightful Jessica Scott-Reid, who of course has been on the podcast. So this isn't from the industry, it's about the industry and about the things that they would like to have us think, but that maybe we should, like, you know, uh, change our perspective a bit. All right, I'll just get into it. Critics declared veganism dead in 2025. Here's what those obituaries are missing. And this is one of my favorite topics. Jessica, of course, does a great job of unpacking it. That yeah, we didn't just, like, it's not just a, a solid march to progress by this movement. Things, were better a few years ago, or they weren't actually better. Just, the animals keep getting killed no matter what we do. But things were looking more up. Veganism was cool. It was everywhere. No matter where you went, you could get a vegan option, and things have, like, subsided. So she goes into why and tells us just don't panic, which is exactly my position. The massive scale and influence of the meat industry shouldn't be underestimated. Ain't that the truth? So she goes into how veganism was cool, like around 2020. And today, as she says, headlines suggest the opposite. The Atlantic, that was a terrible, terrible article. That plant-based eating has lost its appeal. The Guardian had a story. Vegan burgers are losing the culture war over meat. The Financial Times, I get all of my perspective from the Financial Times. Why the vegans lost. Yeah, well, hold on a minute. Like, where's the influence coming for these stories? And is it really totally unbiased? Are the people writing these stories people who went vegan and then stopped being vegan? I doubt it. She does point out about Beyond Meat. Beyond Meat, like, I really hope Beyond Meat is going to survive. I love Ethan Brown, or at least, I don't really know him, but I loved his interview. And they just seem like really good people and really trying to do the right thing. And they were so big. And they all got some money out, I think. So I guess I shouldn't feel sorry for them. But I feel sorry for the movement, because I loved Beyond Burgers. She points out that vegan restaurants are closing, and I don't really keep track of that unless it's near me. And there aren't a lot of vegan restaurants near me. There are a couple, and they seem to be doing absolutely fine. But they're small, because Rochester is a small city, and it would be hard for a vegan restaurant that serves only vegan food to survive. That doesn't mean that other restaurants aren't serving. You can get plenty of good vegan food here, but actual vegan restaurants are having a tougher time of it. Or some of them are adding meat to their menu. But of course, if they're in it for the ethics, they're not doing that. So then I close, which is really sad. Then she points out, however, these eulogies for veganism tend to downplay this critical point. Taking on the meat industry, a monster machine with unparalleled lobbying and marketing resources, was never a fair fight. Yeah, I mean, ain't that the truth? In 2024, the meat industry, just in the US, made nearly $300 billion in revenue. And this is the most disgusting statistic. Americans consumed nearly 230 pounds of meat and poultry per capita that year. 230 pounds of dead animal. Holy moly. And she talks about the lobbying. The meat processing industry lobbyists collectively spent $5.5 million in Washington. And of course, then there's other money spent at the state level, and that's just in the US. And a lot of their goals, which we don't really see, is to influence regulatory agencies, not just to influence legislation. So that's we don't even see a lot of the lobbying that's going on, but it's really influencing what's happening. She points out, and this is what I keep trying to point out, that it's the classic innovation hype cycle that we've seen in the tech sector. Every time there is a new technology, and here it's a new food, which is even tougher. Like there's this initial surge of excitement, and people get really excited about it and adopt it, and and then things are found out to be wrong with it, and or people just get bored with it. And a lot of people were going plant-based just because it was trendy. So the fact that it's gone up and then it went down doesn't mean it's dying. It means that there are hurdles to be overcome. Uh, and as she points out, I don't know whether this is true, but I assume it's true. We're not there yet on taste, price, and convenience. Yeah, on price for sure, because the meat industry is so heavily subsidized. And because, treating animals really poorly is cheap. Uh, so we're not there yet with the products, except for people who are highly motivated. And this is just a predictable stage. And we should all be expecting it and keep not just hoping, but working. The way we used to have, well, we still do. I know all of you still do. But the attitude that was around in the vegan movement maybe 20 years ago was we had to be constantly at it and telling people what veganism was and pushing to get more in the restaurants and the stores. It was constant, constant. It needs to be constant, constant again. Oh, it always did. But it is different. I mean, as somebody who's been doing this for a long time, I can attest that it's different. People didn't know what veganism was then. It was like people didn't think it was possible. People thought it was like that you would die. I mean, I know there are still a few of those people, but the fact is there aren't a lot. Everybody knows it's healthy. Everybody knows you can do it because a lot of us have been doing it for 20 years now. And, I don't dye my hair. That's what I always tell. I actually don't. I'm 75 years old. I don't dye my hair. It's supposed to be a sign of good health. I would say there's a few other things going on. Nothing serious. Nothing serious. Uh, but my hair, that's what I tell people. Like that, this is proof that veganism is healthy for you. I don't know how did I go down that route? Um, and then of course have been the meat industry disinformation campaigns. They're working very, very, very hard. With the ridiculous ultra processed thing. Just anything that they can do to portray vegan foods as unhealthy and unnatural. The Center for Consumer Freedom has been extremely active in there. The harm that organization has done in so many different ways is incalculable. Um, so they've gotten lots of placement in the press for how unhealthy it is. People want to hear that. People want to hear that the food they're used to eating is the food you have to eat. But she does talk about Denmark, which is a part of her article. It is highly worth, well, the whole article is worth reading, but highly worth reading. Because uh, in Denmark, the government has gone about it, the government is actually motivated, and they've gone about it in a different way. Plant-based options are presented as a business opportunity, climate smart choice, because the government in Denmark actually cares about the climate. Wow, that's amazing. Um, and they position the plant-based sector as complementary rather than disruptive to the meat industry. I mean, I certainly hope it's totally disruptive, and the meat industry seems to think it is. But the positioning is like, all right, we're not going to take your meat away from you, but look at this delicious food that you could have 5, 6, 12 times a week. Um, all right. She concludes by saying, success is not measured by short-term sales spikes or viral trends. It comes from steady integration with plant-based foods becoming normalized, accessible, and appealing. And thus, the work continues. The work is the same as it's always been, and it continues. And, we're going to beat them. We're so much closer than we were 20 years ago. It's actually completely different, even though in some ways it feels like we've gone backwards. I don't think we've gone backwards. I think we've gone into the like the goal is over there, and I'm doing this on YouTube, and if you're listening, you wouldn't understand anyway. My point is that this is a new phase. It is not a repetition of the old phase. It's not going backwards. It's a lull. And once we've gotten out of this lull, there's going to be a new, more reliable and more well-motivated people who are going to adopt vegan diets, and who are going, obviously, who are going to cut down on the amount of meat they eat. Even though that's always been a hard pill for us to swallow, time to swallow it. All right, that's enough of that. Thank you, Jessica Scott-Reid. All right, from Ford's Dairyman. Meat matters in a healthy, sustainable diet. In the first place, this is from a dairy site, so I'm not sure why they're talking about this, but all these people stick together. And actually, a lot of dairy producers now are producing meat because they raise the male calves for beef. All right, so she's talking a little bit about the Make America Healthy Again campaign, the upcoming dietary guidelines, the release of the Eat Lancet 2.0 report, and that all of these have caused a lot of discussion of the role of meat in a healthy diet. And she says, everyone is asking the question, can meat, dairy, poultry, eggs, and seafood fit into a healthy, sustainable diet? The answer is enthusiastically yes, unquote. Isn't that interestingly put? Can it fit into a healthy system? Not, is it necessary? They have changed their tune. They are so on a back foot here. I mean, she does go on to talk about this. The Animal Agriculture Alliance has put out the Meat Matters Guide. Just the fact that they feel the need to do that is reassuring, I think. And these are some of the points that they make, and they're all stupid, as you can guess. Complete protein power. I mean, how long ago did Frances Moore LePay disprove the whole complete protein myth? You can get all of your amino acids from plant-based foods. There are a few plant-based foods that have them all. No, actually, a lot of them have them all, but some of them have really low numbers of some that you should be getting more of. And all you have to do is eat a variety of foods. Most people like to eat a variety of foods and not just beef, except for like maybe our president. No, he has the role. So, all right, stop me now. All right. Many animal proteins provide all 9 essential amino acids needed to support critical body functions. You can get all of those from plant-based foods. That's so stupid. Then B12. We all know where animal-based foods get B12. They supplement their diets with loads and loads of B12, and that's why they get B12, which you get from, dirt. And most animals aren't out eating dirt. Which everyone has always done, and we don't anymore. Heart health. Really? The only claim here is that lean beef can fit into a heart healthy diet. That's a pretty weak sauce kind of claim. When consumed alongside other important nutrients like fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, the big claim isn't certainly that you need animal-based foods for heart health, but that maybe if you're careful, you can tolerate them. Curb hunger. A lot of foods do that. Key to vulnerable populations. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations recognizes meat, milk, and eggs as essential sources of nutrients, particularly for vulnerable populations. I mean, I don't know what where this is from, but I would say that one of the issues is if people are in places where they can't get enough food, that and they can get meat, milk, and eggs, which seems surprising, but I guess it's possible. Then they might need to eat meat, milk, and eggs. Or if the plant-based foods that they're getting don't have nutrients or something, I don't know. Like, it's not us. It's not anybody listening. It's not anybody reading this. And then the last one is sustainability progress. I mean, come on. Aren't they made progress? They're not as bad as they used to be. Like, is that the claim? Choosing food that is good for people and the planet should be based on facts and not a one-sided agenda. I totally agree. Don't fall victim to the misconceptions floating around. View the Meat Matters Guide to see what research says. And that was by one Emily Ellis, who's the manager of communications at the Animal Agriculture Alliance. All right, that was weak. I'll tell you. All right, this is interesting. I didn't know about this. Open pen gestation rule now in effect for Ohio pig farmers. This is from Pork Business, which I read so you don't have to. And Ohio is one of those states that years ago put in one of these government agencies that would set standards for how animals are to be treated. And I was always worse than skeptical. I mean, I always thought these were a disaster. This is really interesting because they're, what do they call it? They're Ohio Livestock Care Standards Board. And it's full of industry people, and it prohibits like the legislature from passing laws to provide for animal welfare in farming. I mean, it's like putting the industry in charge of the rules that are going to govern them. All right, so there's this new rule that breeding gestation stalls, which is what they call gestation crates, are only allowed post-weaning for limited periods to confirm pregnancy and maximize embryonic welfare, with new construction banning stalls except for these short confirmation windows. Now, assuming this is going to get enforced, and I'm not saying it's not, I think it might be, since it's coming from this governmental agency, basically. They're kind of banning gestation crates. I mean, not completely, because they wouldn't want to do what, the activists want. But, and the organization, the Pork Council, points out that the timeline for implementation gave pig farmers the ability to plan, invest, and adapt responsibly. Every single law that has been passed requiring gestation crates to be gotten rid of has given a huge long timeline. So that's just bullshit. Rather than face abrupt changes that could have forced families, only people who produce pork have families, like most of the rest of us, out of a profession they love, providing nutrient-dense protein for their communities. But it's interesting, and Humane World for Animals seems to think this is great. So I checked it just in case I was missing something. And I think this is just the industry facing up to the fact that they were, as I spoke about with Matt Dominguez last week, like the pork industry has been particularly recalcitrant about making any changes. And part of it is just their personalities that, they just don't want to be beaten. Well, here they're making it look like it's their idea. This grassroots approach, what is grassroots about this? There's nothing grassroots about this. It's from the Livestock Standards Board. This grassroots approach doesn't try to dictate how farmers and their veterinary partners in other states raise their animals. So there's no sales ban. They really hate the sales ban. And the Ohio Pork Council concludes by saying, we care about our animals and their well-being. We care about food safety, and we certainly care about the people and the environment in the communities where we farm. Do you really? That's great. But it's pretty interesting. It's like they're trying to come up with a way to cave without looking like they're caving. Really good news. Why is everyone talking about sustainability? This is from Drovers. Like, why? Well, producers and consumers define sustainability differently. It's important for beef producers to become part of the story, not ignore it. This is by Angie Stump Denton. And this is so interesting because it has all these different definitions of sustainability, which don't have anything to do with I thought it had to do with, the environment and climate. That's what I think of when I think of sustainability. But no, people, like, this is a word we have to stop using because people just take it to mean anything that they want. The U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef says that sustainability encompasses socially responsible, environmentally sound, economically viable, economically viable practices that prioritize climate, people, animals, and progress. Well, that's a lot of things to accommodate all at the same time. This guy, Matthew Cleveland, who's the ABS Global Senior Director of Global Bovine Sustainability, that's quite a title, says sustainability is fundamentally about stewardship. Stewardship of the environment, yeah, all right. Caring for the land, okay, caring for the animals. I don't even consider that part of sustainability. I mean, obviously, I consider it of paramount importance, but I don't think it is about sustainability. Caring for our families. What? And caring for our communities, okay. From a producer's perspective, sustainability is deeply rooted in profitability. Oh, is it really? Cleveland notes that in a survey of ranchers, profitability was the largest consideration in sustainability discussions. Oh, great. That's really terrific. Quote, producers have to remain profitable in order to be sustainable, he says. Or on the other hand, if you can't be sustainable and produce and have a profit, you have to go out of business. Oh my God. Consumers, this points out, view sustainability differently. Still not the way I view it, though. Surveys reveal people are most concerned about practices like no antibiotics and animal management. Animal management. They do care about the animals, even though with environmental factors ranking lowest in their priorities. On the word sustainability, we obviously have no idea what this word means. Cleveland also points out that the way they're going to deal with this in the beef industry is genetic intervention. Genetic intervention is the most important practice for permanent reduction of environmental impact on livestock production. They're going to fuck with the cows. That's what they're going to do. And there's actually, he says, a tremendous opportunity to use genetic innovations to drive efficiency and sustainability. Great. When we talk about sustainability, we have to frame that in a way that producers are going to get engaged. No, we don't. We have to pass laws forcing them. All right, let's talk about profitability, he says. Let's talk about return on investment. No, let's talk about the planet. Crazy. These people are crazy. Sustainability. I mean, don't use that word anymore because obviously it's lost its meaning. All right, from whatpoultry.net, the egg wars. We're having egg wars. Caged, cage-free, free-range, pasture-raised, and I would add, plant-based, but she didn't. This is by Meredith Dawson. And she points out that it's really starting to happen. The egg industry is undergoing a conversion as cage-free, free-range, and pasture-raised eggs are beginning to slowly claim market share from eggs produced using what they like to call and what she calls conventional housing. There's nothing conventional about what they do these birds. Distinct market segments that allow producers to target different consumer priorities, as alternative housing systems now account for approximately 40% of the nation's layer hens. That's a lot. I know it's not even close to enough. That means 60% are still in battery cages. Conventionally housed eggs, i.e. in battery cages, target the consumers that prefer a budget-friendly option. So poor people have to give up their ethics. That's basically what's that saying. Pasture-raised and free-range eggs are often marketed to the consumer whose priority is animal welfare. Yeah, rich people get to pretend that they actually care about animals. And cage-free eggs occupy whatever middle ground is left over. People who can't afford, people who care kind of, but not enough to spend really a lot of money that they either can't afford or don't want to. Then she just goes on to talk about like there's more competition in the industry. But I thought it was pretty interesting. They don't have an answer. They don't have an answer. They think that battery cages have to stay on the market so that poor people will have something to eat, basically. All right, there's an article here on wolves. I find wolves a really depressing topic. I've always had really, really mixed feelings. Actually, not that mixed, really bad feelings about wolf releases, because I think we're just putting them out there to suffer so often. I mean, wolves care so much about each other. So even if one survives, they probably lost pack mates and spouses and whatever. Well, I guess spouse is the wrong word, but mate. That's the word they use. This is from Ag Daily. More wolves, more conflict. Livestock depredation. That's the word that they like to use. Depredation in Colorado. All right, Colorado has a lot of wolf release. And they're talking about this woman, Mary Lee Ellis, who's one of the owners of Coberly Creek Ranch in Routt County, Colorado. Sorry. And talking about how, they found a calf's body. It's also, the other thing is these wolf, We have to get rid of the animal agriculture and get the cows and the calves especially off of the land before we release the wolves, not after. They can't they can't survive together. And you know which one I think we need to get rid of. All right. So the Ellis family runs a cow calf and hunting operation on forest permits, so not their own land, and private land in northwestern Colorado. And they're really upset that wolves were released near their ranch. And most of this is about how unbelievably difficult it is to get money back, because if you're the way they did this so that they could release these wolves is they promised that you could be compensated if you lost a cow because of the wolves. So they get their money back, but apparently it's really hard to get your money back, and the agency is really reluctant to get on and on and on and on. Yeah, I have the answer. Just stop, get these cows off the land. It's like it's just a disgrace. And let the wolves have it. Let the wolves do what they want to do. And when Ellis told the ranch manager which calf it was, she said he just got despondent. He knows the mom. He knows the potential of this calf. When you see how they've been torn apart, it's very emotional. These are people who run a hunting preserve. Give me a break. All right, that's enough. That's enough. I'm losing my voice. Can you tell? I keep losing my voice. That's it for this week's Rising Anxieties. Oh, I do have stuff I'm supposed to say at the end. Let's see. Last Friday's interview was with Matt Dominguez. I think I just mentioned that, from Compassion and World Farming USA. We talked a lot about strategy, theories of change. It was a fascinating conversation. I highly recommend it if you haven't listened. This Thursday, the Hen Report. I think I'll be joined by Michael Dorr. Excited about that. This Friday, Wayne Shang is going to be joining me on what he's been up to of late. This is a man who constantly reinvents himself, or at least reinvents his activism. He's currently studying at a seminary. Yep. So I can't wait for that conversation. And thank you so much for joining me today on Rising Anxieties. Don't forget to tune in to the Hen Report and the Our Hen House interview. And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcatcher or on YouTube.